Good morning, everybody, and welcome to another Better Way of Life. Today, we will be talking to special guest Emma Baker, who will be coming along shortly. But before that, let's get into the hot topic of the week on LinkedIn, my pizza post. Yes, some of you have seen it. Some of you haven't seen it. If you haven't seen it yet, do go and get a slice of that. But no, I'm joking. That's not the hot topic. The hot topic is, as ever, people that make 10K a month, 5 to 10K a month on LinkedIn posts that you see all over the place. In fact, I saw one the other day where someone said that they're fortunately no longer on just 20K a month. And now they've, migrated to the great 60K a month. And I just had to stop and say, that's an obscene amount of money. What an absolutely obscene amount of money. Can't they give some of that to somebody else? That would be marvelous if they could.
Well, the one I saw this morning was, excuse me, effectively somebody. It was a jokey kind of post about people being stuck on 5 to 10K a month. So this particular person, it was Jo Watson. I will call her because actually it was what she wrote was quite true. Yep. And it was saying, are you stuck on 5 to 10K a month? You need to have a word with yourself. So lots of people sort of joked along with her. And then somebody else said that they felt that it was disrespectful because for many people, they are stuck on 5 to 10K a month. And 10K is actually potentially very difficult to live on, particularly when you're on a single income. Well, we've got 2 incomes here and I'm nowhere near that. So I did support Jo in this. Actually, it was really lovely that somebody actually interacted with the post and she messaged me and thanked me. And I said it really got on my nerves because these 5 to 10K months or 20 or whatever you're talking about is completely out of context when people talk about this, because it totally, for anybody reading that, like either side of the coin, it doesn't take into consideration how much people want to be earning, what their goals are, what their ability is, what their capacity is as well, what it is their what they do. If we're just talking about turnover, well, if I turned over that amount, actually my profit would probably be way more than somebody who actually was turning over lots more, because I don't have many other outgoings.
Yeah.
And I just thought it's a bit like my post the other day that where I've forgotten what it was now, and it wasn't mine, it was somebody else's, where we have to think about what your average person is that's looking at that. So somebody called me out on the fact that I, and a lot of other people, said that £32 for 2 Hunter's chicken and chips and 2 Cokes, they called it a bargain. And I said, like, I don't think it's a bargain. To which they said, well, it is in some places. And I said, if you're going to comment on posts like that, or you're going to write that, you've got to consider that your average person is probably going to, your average person is going to be interacting on LinkedIn, because probably anybody that's earning huge amounts probably isn't even doing their own social media. And so actually, if we're looking at a bargain probably is one of those, the pubs that I go to that will do 2 for 10, 2 for 15. That is a bargain.
Yeah. Well, and I'm going to add into that, because I'm old, right? A lot of prices are stuck in my head from the 1980s, right? So ultimately, right, I look at like the price of anything in a shop now and I go, what? Because I'm like, I still remember when it was like that amount. And now it's like this amount.
I mean, I totally get that the bargain thing is dependent on whatever your normal is. But that has to have been clickbait. It has to have been. But apparently he said everybody was being negative on the post. And I thought, actually, I think people are being realistic. So the 5 to 10K month things, as Jo got called out by this person and said, but actually I'm saying this because for many people that are struggling, 120K a year, even when you take tax off or whatever, that's a slap in the face, because most people aren't turning over, earning, whatever you want to say. Your average person isn't.
and it's also very dependent upon geography, etc. as well.
Totally,
I mean,
totally.
you know, I mean, still down this end of the country, I think now in Somerset, I think the average annual wage is somewhere between 28 to 30,000.
Oh, totally. I mean, when I was
Right.
teaching, it was 20. I think it was back then. It was 27, not that long ago. And I actually was only very slightly, after years of being a teacher, was slightly over the national average.
Yeah. Now, obviously, if you're going to live somewhere like London or whatever, then you because cost of living is significantly higher, wages will hopefully be significantly higher. But again, not for everybody, you know, and there will be a lot of people, in fact, living below the you know, the breadline really, and not making enough money at all. So I just find all of these things, all of these things a little bit vile. You don't actually need to talk about how much money you're making. It's the same as, I'm going to say this, it's the same as body coaches. All right. I get it. I get the fact that you need to say to people, you need to, do you want to look like this? Right. But I saw one again this morning, right? Showing a chap, right? And then showing him ripped, and it said, now it's like, and ripped. And I'm like, I don't even want to look like that. Right. I might want to lose a few pounds, right? I might want to lose a little bit of belly fat or whatever. But this guy in the first picture actually didn't look that bad, right? In the second picture, to me, looked pretty awful, right? I don't want people to see my ribs, right? I do not want to look like that. Some people might in their head go, that's beautiful, that's aesthetic, that's the way it is. But wouldn't it be an awful world if we all look the same like that, right? So what these people have got to understand is, right, that might be their ideal, but it's not everybody's ideal, right? And
also it's not looking at, I would be wanting to more promote what
how they feel is important.
How they feel. Like I would say, you know, as a woman that's nearly 50, you know, I can do handstands still, and I'm really proud of that. I don't have a model figure or anything like that, but it should be looking at what that person's goals are for what they want to be. I would rather, I've had to explain this to my son, how, like, when he was at school, he wasn't great at maths. He still struggles with it now, and he got his SATs. And I remember him saying, oh, but so-and-so was so much better than me. And so if you took him being here and her being here, this other girl, he probably went up to here. So he was here and he made that much in the leap and she made that. And I said, but you're why teachers teach. It should be about what that person's goals are. When I'm teaching people, I find out where they are. And actually, I love it when I have somebody that comes in that's really unsure, that actually then does something that was massively out of out of their comfort zone. And what I really love is that then sometimes they'll say, oh, but so and so is really much better than me, and that person then will say, or I'll say, but they've been doing it a long time.
Yeah,
they've been doing it a long time.
This is a great point to bring Emma in, who's probably been listening to this in the background going, oh, what am I walking into here? But I think she'll have something to say about kind of that whole unevenness and why we need to like take people on a journey. In fact, I was just having a conversation with her before we came on about taking people on a journey. And I think that's important. We need to take people on a journey, not go, you need to go from here to there, right? And expect
all people thinking, because at the other side of it, you've got women who want to stay at home, women that want to work. Then you've got this whole, you've got to be earning more, and the whole thing's just, and then men that you work from home, so your ability to earn and during the holidays might be less, let's just say, because you're looking after the kids.
No, well, the TV looks after them. Anyway.
I said maybe.
No, I'm joking. Yes, no, it does. It does impact. Emma, nice to see you. Nice. How are you?
Fine, thank you. Do you know what? There's so many things I could talk about, that you've already started. I'm like, oh, there's just not enough time.
We can get you on again. We can get you on again.
Which one would you like to start with?
We'll start with time is money. Like, I work projects, but I also work by the hour, because not all of my clients have a lot of money. And the whole point of bringing, I'm a business consultant, by the way, and I work with neurodivergent business owners. Some of them haven't got the money, so therefore I'm not going to go in there and go, do you know what, I'm going to make you XYZ amount of money.
High ticket.
Yeah. Oh, and by the way, you need to give me like 10 grand so I can get you there. So like, it just
with no guarantees. No, but that's the best of it, with no guarantees.
Exactly.
Like, with no guarantees, and then you get told then you don't care about your business enough. And I'm like,
also what you pointed out as well, individuality, Marianne, is so true. At the end of the day, every business owner has their own goals. Like, you can't have a package and sell someone a package and say, I'm going to make you XYZ in 2 months, because I don't even know what their goals are at that point. How can I make that promise? And I'm really into, I have to focus on that client. What do they want? What are their needs? And I'm so adaptable, because every single client is completely different. So there you go.
It's so true. It's a breath of fresh air to hear.
Yeah,
it is a breath of fresh air, because I see so many of these posts and messages to me asking me, you know, or saying that they can, if you give me X amount, and I did say to somebody the other day, but I've got to sell 6 of my courses. I've got to sell 6 of them. So I'm taking out my costs. I've got to sell 6 of those before I can even pay you to apparently get me to get my voice heard more. There's no guarantee of any money, and yet I do what I do, and people will get something at the end of mine, and I'm struggling to sell mine, and the other person isn't, and I'm there going,
it feels a little bit like making open promises to people that genuinely trust easily.
Yes.
And I feel like I need to protect every one of my clients. As soon as they're on board with me, I'm like, right, let's put you, no, not because they want it, because I feel like I need to put them in a little box and go, I'm going to be here for you. Whatever happens, that SHIT hits the fan, I'm there for you. I got you. And it's so important to do that, not just make open promises and take their money. No. Like, how can you sleep at night if you're on that? Like, oh, let's just make money.
Well, in a very comfy bed, because they can afford to buy one. That's the start of it. By the way, if you can hear snoring in the background, that is the dog.
Oh,
I don't know whether you can hear that, but that's the dog. The dog is still asleep from last night, because I was up working late last night, kept him up late, and he's snoring away in the background.
Well, you get him working as well then. No, I know what you're going to say. My dog gets almost irritated if
I was actually working on your work late, so that's what I was doing at 2 o'clock in the morning. There we go.
Oh, that's dedication.
It is. It was absolutely. Another thing I'm going to bring into the equation, just to keep it light-hearted for a minute as well, is I also did a little bit of a post midweek about. I went over on TikTok. And I thought I'd do it for a bit of a laugh. I went on TikTok and I typed in LinkedIn. I don't know whether you saw this post that I did, but anyway, I typed in LinkedIn into TikTok, and out came this absolute plethora of mainly young people taking the absolute pee out of people on LinkedIn. And honestly, if you haven't done it, it's so fun to do, because it's so true. Right. They're taking the rip out of like just the way that people speak on LinkedIn, kind of some of these false promises that people make on LinkedIn, kind of all the stuff about the sort of 5K, 10K, all of that. It's brilliant. They're taking the rip out of all of it. And I think some of these people need to go and look at TikTok to see how much they're being parodied, because they honestly don't understand.
It's because when I got told that Facebook was dead, and I thought, well, I'm doing pretty well, like, you know, I'm on there. Work-wise, I think it all depends. So we've talked about this, what platform you use. But the best of it is that actually so you've got people on LinkedIn saying you need to be more human. So I'm like, so basically you're saying be more like you are on Facebook, how I am. So I've taken many of the things that I do on Facebook to LinkedIn, but people still think they're far too good for Facebook because they're on LinkedIn, and you're like, yeah, but
I know. I literally had that last night, right? Because you know that one of the things we're doing is we're not making any bones about this. We are taking Facebook content and we're putting it on LinkedIn. And somebody just wrote Facebook, and I went, yeah. I said, odd, isn't it? This is my comment on the post. I said, odd, isn't it? Right? I said, there you go. We take Facebook content, we put it on LinkedIn, where people say, oh, I don't like Facebook and whatever, and yet everybody and their dog absolutely loves it on LinkedIn, right?
Because it's just, Facebook is for people. So the way I cleaned out my Facebook years ago, and I'm on groups for funny things, whatever things, and I just take myself out of groups that aren't nice, which I'm not on any. And then anybody that was in my feed that I sort of didn't like. But I do find the whole thing really funny, because actually all that I do is find things that make me go, oh my God. You know, the things that I put on my Facebook that keep it light, that keep it fun, that make, you know, there are the serious things sometimes, but the things that you put on there that make people laugh, that actually what I'm seeing a lot now is that I'm really getting to know the people who come on to interact with me, because they're actually giving themselves, rather than this odd version of what you're meant to be on LinkedIn, which is, I don't know what, other than me just being me is me. But I do wonder with some people, who are they actually? I see a lot of people very loud on
I want to ask Emma a little bit about that. Emma, with some of the clients that you work with who are neurodivergent, what is it they struggle with when it comes to social media?
They don't do it.
Right.
And which is really weird, because how did they find me?
Well, so they do it. They're there, but they don't create on it.
They just don't create. Yes, exactly. And I do say, why? Well, out of interest, why do you not? And they say, well, people don't want to hear what I have to say.
Yes,
then how do you know until you get out there? And it's that fear of rejection.
Yeah.
9 times out of 10, it's like, am I saying the wrong thing? Am I going to annoy someone? And it's really hard to be authentic.
Yeah.
And it's like a borderline. Am I pushing it too much?
I think for me, sometimes I'm a bit scared to get into something that I might then find myself
triggered by.
I've worked a lot since being diagnosed. Yeah. I've worked really hard at stepping outside of things, or if I posts that I put out, the baked bean one the other day, I had to resist temptation to go to every person that said about how much sugar they might have had in them and going, they're not the ones I buy. I had to stop myself from every single one of them and just going, you're doing this because it's creating a conversation. But even the Joe Watson one, I was thinking, and I said to her, I sometimes don't comment, and I think this potentially what you're saying, and maybe, is that I don't know if I've quite got the context right, because there's a lot of satire out there and a lot of sarcasm, and sometimes I look at it and I go, oh, I don't know what you mean, and I don't know if I've got the wrong end of the stick here.
And I'm really sorry about that. It's all my fault. Because I purposely, it's one of the things that I do, right? Literally, after I've written my post every day, probably the first thing I do is go looking for where I can put a sarcastic comment on someone's post.
No, I don't mean that. I mean people that write things, maybe that they're political or something else.
Oh, right.
And when I look at it, I now have to often go to AI I put the post into AI and I go, what does this mean? Because sometimes I've missed something, or like the rocket thing at the moment, and I think, oh, if I missed something, I don't know.
That's kind of part of marketing, right? Marketing has always done that, where part of marketing has always been to sort of spin.
Well, it's very confusing for many people that are neurodivergent. Who just don't get it, or they think they get it, but they're not sure they get it.
Well, part of it is to try and confuse everybody so that it takes them. It actually creates engagement, or it creates conversation, or it deliberately creates confusion in order to get you to act. And that's that is unfortunately part of a marketing tool.
Emma, do you think that's why many of your people don't, or they just don't?
That's exactly it, because they're like, how is this perceived? Have I got it? Like, I've done it as well. It's like you'll read something and you're like, oh, you've got an opinion, or you're like, oh, I've got a comment, I can add something to this. And then as you're writing it, you reread it and you think, oh, have I got the gist of this right? And then there's a point where you're like, actually, I'm just not going to comment. It is definitely something that I say to my clients: if you want to do a comment, stick with facts. Can't argue with facts. Because you want to get yourself out there, but you don't want to push it too much. So that's like safe until you get the confidence up. That's probably the safe
thing, isn't it? Even, I mean, I said to Graham the other day, I said, any of the fun things that I post, they wouldn't be anything that would be too contentious, because I can't deal with the stuff. And I hold my hands up to say I can't deal with people chucking stuff at me.
But do you know what? Life's too short to deal with people that have to have a comment to bring you down. So I get that. Just to stay away from it. It's just in those situations.
Can I say this though? I think one of the most confusing things in that whole arena, if we're talking about neurodivergence and this, is that some of the main protagonists of, or some of the main perpetrators of creating this kind of content, which actually confuses people and is actually in some ways quite narcissistic and out there to cause offense or out there to cause befuddlement, are people who are neurodivergent.
Got either end of the scale, haven't you?
Right. So it gets back to that whole thing about if you've met one person with ADHD, you've met one person with ADHD, because this is the different ends of spectrum here, right? There are people who are neurodivergent who this causes anxiety for, and there are some people who absolutely love this and thrive on it, right? It's actually, I think what you tend to find is there's a whole bunch of neurotypical people in the middle who are like almost going like this with it.
Well, I think that there'd be many. So at the moment, when I'm working with Michael on this ADHD course, which Emma, I need to speak to you about actually. What I really love about what he's developed is it's about educating people about ADHD for them to understand themselves better, which is why when I told him how I am, he said, you're absolutely the person to deliver this because you believe in it, because it's not about using it as an excuse to get away with saying what I want or doing what I want. For me, I go, okay, so I know that I understand why emptying my suitcase could be a struggle for me. So this is a crazy one to come up with, but lots of people do associate with it. I've come up with lots of reasons. I understand why I struggle to empty my suitcase. So now I'm going to do all the things that I can to make it easier to empty the suitcase. Or I could just sit going, it's a real nightmare emptying my suitcase. That's not going to move me on, which is why, Emma, I know that that's what you, from the time that we spoke when we met, that like you were really interested in hearing about me talking about the strategies I developed by learning what I knew about me.
it's so empowering to both people when you're having a conversation, when you genuinely want to learn and understand. And as whenever I've spoken to you, I just think, God, this person's so awesome. Like, I want to hear more. And being around people that do genuinely want to hear more about you as a person, not just that you have ADHD or that you have a dog or whatever. It's you as a whole. That's so much more important than bringing in shed loads of money. To me personally, I have to just make that connection and understand that person, and that person to go, I didn't realize that about myself. Do you know what? I am kind of awesome. So yeah,
it's purpose, isn't it?
It's
proper purpose. I just wish that more people, when they sit down to talk about purpose or think about purpose, wouldn't go straight to pounds, shillings and pence.
Yeah.
Right. But I even saw that on somebody's post the other day, them saying that like the only purpose that you should be thinking about is making money. And you just think, oh, really?
Where does that even come from? And I've talked before about Samuel, my eldest, you know, doing music production and wanting to get into music. And actually, when he was taking his options, he said, I could do computer science and think about going down that route, and potentially there's lots of money, or music where potentially there could be, but possibly not, particularly in the beginning. And he said, do I go with my head or my heart? And I thought, well, for a 14-year-old to be thinking that actually he chose going with his heart and what he loves.
Yeah. Do you know what? Musicians are great people to talk about purpose with, because, and there are exceptions, right? But the majority of musicians, their purpose is their art. First and foremost, right? They may aspire to making money by doing their art, but the majority of them have to absolutely slave it and go through extreme poverty or work 3 jobs or whatever in order to be able to do what it is that their purpose is. And therefore they completely understand it. Right? They completely understand what proper purpose is, right? There's a few that daddy and mummy have bankrolled them to the top, but you know, and people love to sort of like, you know, get on those people and go, oh yeah, they got the hand up and whatever. But actually, out of the millions of musicians that are out there, the majority of them,
been a hard struggle.
It's a hard struggle, and a lot of them will never, ever, ever have a lot of money, and they will see themselves as absolutely thankful if in some way, shape or form, what they've been allowed to carve out over their life is to be able to release their music in one way or another, even if it's meant that they've had to do other stuff on the sideline or whatever.
Also, it won't necessarily be that they've got a number one. The number of people that have said, and this is what I want to speak to you about, Emma, the number of people that have said to me, what are you going to do? Like, oh, wow, you can be really big and you can be this. And I go, but I never said that. I never said that. I never said that. I just said I want to do what I do because I love what I do. I never said. The thought of employing people literally brings me out in like a whole host of reasons. The whole idea of it, even before we even talk about, even thinking about like having to take a salary from something makes me go, oh, like all panicky about stuff, because actually I just want to do what I do because I love it. So my question for you, and I've forgotten it, which is really ironic because of it just isn't really ironic, is it really? Is I'm just thinking now on the spot. I was thinking about, so when I met you, we went to I've got Kate White. Is it White? What's her name? White? Yeah. Her sales funnel event.
Whiteley.
Whiteley, that's it. Which is really, really good. And Emma and I were sat next to each other. And we got talking during the break, didn't we, about, you know, what I do, what you do. And, I think, Graham, maybe you spoke to us. But what I really love about you, Emma, and you hit the nail on the head, is you don't make it about you. The number of business coaches, mentors, whatever you want to call them, that they start off by telling me what I should be doing or what I'm doing wrong, and I'm like, yeah, but you don't know me, like you don't even know. So you're just telling me I've got to do all these things and I'm doing this wrong or that wrong, and how you can definitely get my courses to sell more. Really? Really? And actually they're telling me that I'm the problem, and Graham knows from working with me that actually I am not the problem. Now, I'm not being arrogant there. I am not the problem in terms of what I sell. It's the whole way. It's the fact we live in this fast, have everything quickly, don't pay for quality because we just need to get it like this. So my question was that when people come to you, it's not really a question. How do you work with the fact you might think, well, this is a crazy idea, but this is what they need to do?
Do you know what? Nothing's ever a crazy idea because it's their baby. Yeah. Like I'm into focus, and I always start off whenever I do a speech, I say your business needs you to focus, and that's focus on bringing in the money. But that's not actually what I'm trying to say to them, because your actual focus to be able to bring in the money is actually to focus on what you love and you enjoy, because only then will you be able to make the money, because you're actually doing something that day in, day out you love doing, and you execute it so well because you're so good at doing it. So for every random thing that a client may think is random, I will go, let's do it. There's never that's a stupid idea, or there's always okay, I don't know the answer, but I will find out.
But even I wrote a program that it is ready to sell, and when people are ready to receive it, it will. And I went with it because I just had to. I literally had to do it because, as you said, when someone's had that idea doesn't come from nowhere, and it's very insulting. And I'm going to say that word, insulting, when some business coaches or other people, I've had it where they've given me unsolicited advice when I was asking what I should call this program. Don't you think you ought to do some market research to see if people want it? And I'm like, are you kidding me? Like, literally, are you kidding me? What you taking me for? That I just sat there and went, I've got all the time in the world. I'm just going to come up with something because.
Do you find that if someone says to you no, or do you find you go, I'm just going to do it anyway, and I'm going to do it my way? Because it's like this drive in you that says, I'm not having someone else tell me my idea is just worthless. Like they're just not the right person for you.
Exactly, because who is anybody to say? What I would say with neurodivergent people is, if they have an idea for something, there's always a reason behind it.
There's so many reasons behind it.
Yeah, there'll always be something. And the problem is when it's, if you want to use the word neurotypical people, is that they won't give respect and credit to that person. So when I had various people say to me, don't you think you ought to do some market research? I said, I have been doing it for years, actually. And I said, I've been doing it in my head for years. And then all of a sudden I executed that, and then I did it. So please don't disrespect me enough to say that it's just
like
we do things in a different way.
This idea. Yeah.
Honestly. And I said, well, I spent money on doing something that I just was a bit, and I think that's where, though, the people that are really good at business coaching or coach are those people that don't make it about them. They actually get to know the person, like Graham got to know me, and I won't even have it that some people say, oh, people might see you as a nightmare. I said, well, go away then, because I literally might think you're a nightmare, but I probably wouldn't be so rude as to say.
Well, I'd have to say, I think that is one thing that I wouldn't call myself a business coach because I don't like the word coach. Bus, maybe I'm a business bus. I'm kind of, you know, sort of more old and slightly battered than a coach. They're quite fancy, aren't they? But my business busness. See, buzz in this. You see, that's good, isn't it? So it is. There's a bus in a business. But I think one of the things that, like, I've done with you, for example, as we've like pushed on with things, is I kept saying to you, it's okay, right? Let's carry on, because I think within any business you do get that rebuff over and over and over and over and over again, and part of it is it's not you or the product or what you're doing or your service that's wrong. What it is that the people that you're talking to, as Emma said, are the wrong people, or they don't get it, right? So there's either an education thing that has to happen there in order to move them on, and that can be a long process, or they're just not the right people, and then we have to look at how it's presented, the way that we're talking about it. Is it the narrative around it? Is the setup of it or the mechanism by which it's delivered right for a particular market, or is that market not the right market? And you know, you found lately, for example, you went to the security show, which is something we talked about a long time ago, and actually we've identified there's probably some other shows you should go to as well, and found a market which is much more receptive than perhaps previous markets you've gone into. And sometimes it's just that. It's just, whoa, I take it to a different place, and suddenly the way that these people will hear my voice is better.
It is. I mean, I'm fairly, what's the word? In tune with me and how I am, and I'm absolutely okay with who I am. A lot of mine came from being diagnosed, and I think some people will see it, again, this is what Michael sort of looks at, some people will see it that once they're diagnosed they're disabled, then so they some people will thrive on that disability. I know I'm going to get shot down, but some people do. It's like, oh, I've got something now and now I can use that, whereas for me I used it to get stronger, actually. And so what I will say, Emma, is your approach is a breath of fresh air, and I think that many people will see that, oh god, it's an awful idea. I probably have moved on from that. The me years ago would have been, because that's all you ever hear from people. When you hear from literally a young age, and I go back now and think, gosh, yes, it would be, you're going on, Marianne, you're this, you're that, you're the other, this is terrible, that's terrible. A lot of that comes from people that just don't see it from your perspective. And then afterwards, they then steal your idea, and you think, oh my gosh, you said before it was awful. But so to have somebody, if you're working with, I previously tried with business coaches, and I thought, no, because you're trying to make me be you, and I don't want to be you. And I get there might be some things I struggle with, but the other side of it is that I can see you don't do is, do not patronize me, or don't say things in a way that will make me feel patronized, because that will rear up that RSD, the rejection sensitivity thing. Because if somebody doesn't say it in a way that's particularly encouraging or understanding, all I hear is, you're rubbish, you're useless, you're terrible. And regardless of whether that coach might say, but that's not what I mean, I said, but I'm paying you to help me, and if I'm saying to you that that's how it's landed with me, I'm really sorry, but you're going to have to work with me on that. Otherwise I feel like I'm awful.
Yeah, and it's having that element, like, bearing in mind everyone now, like, I do meet my clients in person, but I also do an awful lot where they're in the middle of nowhere, and so we have to do online calls. It's an element of me trying to understand what's their body language right now, what have they just said that's made me go, that like the sound of their voice, or like the undertone. I have to really tune into that. Just quickly before I yabber on, because I will. I was listening to something the other day. What's the difference between a coach and a consultant? I am a consultant, not a coach, but I do have a lot of my clients going, you should be a coach. And it's because I kind of, I don't know, I just have that element of maybe falling over to that. I don't know. But the main difference is I will listen. And if, say, for example, there was something that you really wanted to do, but you're like, I'm really rubbish at putting a picture together for a flyer. I go, well, don't do it. I will do that. And
that's what we do.
Yes, where the consultant comes in is kind of like, I can tell you this, this, and this, but if you don't want to do it, don't focus on that. Focus on what you're good at, and I will do the rest.
That's really interesting, because when I say to people about being an educational consultant, I will go in, I can look at, in a very sanitized way, I can look at someone's training and say, well, this, 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 and this. But as you say, when you've got that coachy part to you, like mentoring bit, you've got that, I think maybe that's where the money bit, where you're able to have that caring bit put back into it, which many people that are consultants that are very black and white and very sanitized will say, yeah, but you can't be like that. And I'm like, but these people are people, they're humans, and people just need a bit of TLC. It doesn't matter how perfect their pictures might be, or their profile picture or whatever, behind it is a person.
Emma, I think we need a new term for us, right? I think we should be called friendly facilitators. I just think that's better. I just think that's better, because consultant, as Marianne says, sounds too black and white. Coach just sounds like you want to take a large sum of money off of people for absolutely nothing and never get your hands dirty. Friendly facilitator sounds right. You're a friend to that person as much as you are, you know, a business support.
That's what
that
it is.
person.
You know, that's what it is.
And you facilitate.
That's the bit. That's where it is. When I hear people saying about being consultants, it's they're going in with their, you know, sort of like walking in and then ordering everybody around. But actually, if you don't get to,
could you use less verbs in this next paragraph?
But if you don't get to know what's underneath it all, like if somebody doesn't get to know what's going on in my life, like Graham knows stuff, and I know that, having spoken to you, Emma, that if you don't get to know that stuff, I mean, if I've got stuff going on that's going to impact on my business, because it's going to, well, if that person doesn't take the time to understand that, we're just acting, and so you'd end up doing what you do, well, so what some people might do to present to the world, which was that masking bit. And so actually, if I go to Graham and say, look, I've got this going on at the moment in my life, I'm really sorry, but I'm not going to be able to do this as much as that. We've got an understanding there that, and to me, if I could never work with somebody that didn't have the empathy to, or didn't have the inclination, actually, because I think
when we first all sat round the table together, that's the bit that bound us all together, right? I think we just came out of a situation where we'd just been, we're not going to mention any names, but we just been listening to some people that were like incredibly bombastic about how to do stuff, and we all just went.
That's exactly. I was like,
well, the interesting thing about that was that I'd walked away from that feeling a bit, and then I saw this person again actually recently, and I did challenge them on something. Well, I asked them a question about something, and I know they looked at me as if, oh, I know that person would have been, oh my gosh, I'm out of my depth with what you've just asked me. But instead of actually saying that, they answered me by trying to take me down. But actually, you know, I was saying, well, I write educational content. That's what I do. And then they said, but you know that AI does that, don't you? Are you kidding me? Of course I know that. I use it as well to help me do that. But the fact is that I've still got a skill that other people need, because all of this fast-paced, do it quickly in 10 minutes stuff is only a surface thing. So the other teacher that I spoke to that was there said, this is a different world, isn't it? And I said, that's exactly it. Because if you don't get to know what product or service that person is offering, where do they want to hit the market?
Yeah,
I don't want to hit the market on fast.
You know what that world is? That's the world of know nothing, learn how to use something that helps you cheat at everything.
Yeah.
I'm gonna put it out there. That's the world of dumbwits.
It is.
That's
so many
the world
people
of
say,
people
you
that
could
have
do
got
that
nothing
faster.
going on between this ear and that ear, and therefore have to rely on, they've learned a single process which makes them money, and they're just going to replicate that and replicate that and replicate that without taking into consideration anything new that's going on in the world. And they're and the only time that they're going to stop and reevaluate them, their life, their business, everything, is when the money stops. Then they start to realize
so much of it
they know nothing.
Yeah, do it fast. Do it fast.
Do it
and
fast.
So
do it fast. Do it expensive. Make a lot of money now. Do it before somebody finds out that you don't know what you don't know, because you're selling nothing. You're selling nothing. You have nothing to really offer other than the fact that you've actually sort of slipped onto an algorithm somewhere, right? And you can replicate that by telling people, oh, if you slip onto this algorithm, you'll make a lot of money because this will happen, right? And the reality is that actually, and we know this, right? We know this. We've proved this recently, right? Marianne discovered how to slip onto the algorithm on LinkedIn, right? And we did a little webinar on it recently. You can go and buy it, folks, for a very reasonable amount of money. But we did, yeah. And people want to know, right? People want to know, how do you go viral on LinkedIn? Well, Marianne discovered how you go viral on LinkedIn. And do you know what? But one of the things that when people come along and they listen to us talking about how you can go viral on LinkedIn, and we can do it over and over and over and over again, right? It's not going to help your business. It's not. Alone, right? It will get you more eyes on. It will get you better vanity metrics and whatever. But you still have to work behind the scenes to benefit from that and then turn that into business. That alone is not going to benefit your business, right? It's like, I can put on I'm going to have to pick the right team here. I can put on a Bayern Munich kit, right, and go onto their pitch and kick a football around. I'm not going to be on the team, right? I'm not going to be great at football. I'd only score a goal against Real Madrid if I actually worked hard, got the skills, and put the effort in to get really, really great at football and have natural ability. I don't have any of that. It's not going to happen. I do like five-a-side at the weekends. So, you know.
But I think that's where, when you get neurodivergent people, so I sit like we did, sort of going, because I was thinking, but that's not going to work to sell what I do. It's not. I know it's not going to work, and there's zero point in me trying to have a conversation with that person because they're not interested in getting to know what I do. Whereas I was talking to you about what I do, you know, and since then we've had conversations about how I can help you and blah, 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 because it's about the fact you've listened to the whole of that. And that's why you'll always be successful with the people that you work with, because it's about, it's about them, and it's about you finding out.
And it's about being real as well.
Do you know what is interesting as well? Like, because I had a recent conversation with Marianne about helping me put together a course, which I don't want to talk about because I
didn't want to say about it.
I'm worried someone's going to steal it. Like, I constantly am like, it's so awesome. Anyway, but I'm thinking about it for
Emma, what you should do here is go that, and this course is all about, and then I'll just bleep it.
Oh, yeah. We're just using anyway. But the interesting thing was I had to buy one of these amazing courses for like £9. I've done that so I could learn what needs to be done. So then when I get to Marianne to talk about my actual course, I don't want to waste her time. I don't want to not understand what we're doing. Like, I literally have gone to the extreme of, I want to do it so well that I'm learning how to not do it well. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Because when we do it, it's going to be awesome. It is going to be awesome.
Absolutely. Yeah. The funny thing is that other people I've worked with that say, oh, I've got this idea, can you help me with it? Can you help me write it? And I'm like, absolutely. Somebody recently said to me, oh, gosh, and this is where actually I was being a consultant, but I was probably being a coach or mentor. Yeah. But this person said to me, the amazing idea, amazing course they've got. And they said, I've got imposter syndrome. And I said, but why? I said, you haven't got imposter syndrome. And I actually said to them, you haven't. I said, why? And I said, because it's all new and I said, but you know that the thing that you've put together is brilliant. You've asked me to come and help you so that you can then develop something else even better, so that when you showcase it, it is better than anything else out there. So there's no imposter about it. There's no imposter. You've gone down the right track of executing that all really, really well, rather than just going. Many business coaches will say, don't just have an idea, just get out there straight away. And I go, no, unless it's right, I can't.
Yeah, go do it right.
And that's not about procrastination. There is procrastination, but there's also that, particularly like for me, I offer qualifications. I cannot half put that out there. It has to be right when I put it out there. It has to be.
As well, with the things that you do, if say, for example, it wasn't correct, there isn't really that much tweaking you can do after it's out there. Like, there are things that you can tweak.
Absolutely. Like,
because there's an accreditation and it means so much to the people that you know you're going to help, it has to be right. You can't just...
Things like, I mean, Graham knows how long I've spent. I've got my PowerPoint. That's got all of the criteria on it. So every bit will tally up to the criteria. Then I've got a workbook that we work through at the same time. I mean, absolute ADHD person's absolute nightmare that I'm sat there going, oh, but I'm like, no, I've got to get this, because the other side of me is that I've got to get it perfect so that when I'm standing up there, it all flows seamlessly, to the point that I say to people, you won't know. I'm also, because I'm teaching trainers, I'll say to them, do you realise what went on to get this to the point that it's like this? And I'm doing that because I need them to see there's a difference between, if you're going to be a trainer and you're just churning out stuff that somebody else has put together, but if you're going to put your own stuff together, it's a lot harder. And if you go down the accreditation route, there's another layer to it. And if you want to go down that route, and I know that Emma, with you want to, and it's always people that want to make sure that what they're offering is quality, not just banging out any old thing. I could do that with loads of stuff. And the interesting thing is a lot of neurodivergent people that are like it, that want that. Yeah. They want to do it properly.
And that's why I say to all of my clients, let's focus on what you are good at. Because if you haven't got sorry, not just focus on what, because not always they're like, focus, all right, I'm trying. But if they're not focusing on the right thing, then they can't focus. It's never going to happen.
No, but you will be able to say to them, I think, Graham, you've sort of said to me, what is your passion? Yeah. And what I'd had up till then was people saying to me, what is it? Choose one thing that you want to do. And that was like, oh, I could do all of these things. And I said, but sometimes I have to go down the route, well, I always have to, with things not working, so that I know that when I land up where I am, it was the right thing, or that is the thing I've got the most passion for. And so right now I've got a product I offer. And as you just said there, Emma, I've got a product I offer, which lots of other people do, but it's the way that I do it that differs to other people. And that's my passion, is that I could do it cheaper. I could do it in many other ways different, but literally that'd be like ripping my soul out. And I'd say, I don't want to do it then. Yeah. I don't want to do it.
And that's why you're doing the further development now, is because in a way what you've seen is people have taken that core product that you deliver, they've pushed that to, they've diluted it and pushed it to the lowest common denominator. And so whilst some people will still want you and the way that you do it the right way, you need to make more money out of telling people that actually they need to do this the right way. And that's where your qualification that you're going to be doing now will enable you to step into that market. So you elevate yourself to a higher level with people so that they go, oh, right, yeah, I need to pay you money for that.
Yeah, I mean, I'm doing an L&D qualification. Do I have to do it? Do I need to do it? No, but I'm doing it because the same, Emma, when you came to me, you've got an inclination about something. And I think either you use a consultant, whatever we want to call them, or the other expert to confirm what you already felt. So all the things that you thought about this thing were true. You could, if you wanted to, you could go and write something that was a £10 course or something that people could just do. But you know that the end user isn't going to get what they need, because that's what it comes down to. You're offering what you want to actually help people do what they do better, not just tick a box. Whereas I'm doing this qualification because I want to be able to stand in arenas for people to take me more seriously. Because if you're a teacher, people think you only teach kids. If you are working L&D and HR, they think they're up here somewhere. And if you're a trainer, well, you've got a whole load of other stuff. There's a whole different level of people there. So I want to be able to stand in every single arena and be able to say, I do know what I'm talking about. And that's what I love about the thing that you're going to be putting out there, is that you've seen not a gap in the market, you've seen a need in the market.
Yes. Well, I don't know. I think I have seen a crater in the market, actually.
I think when people say gap, though, it's talks about money. And actually, the program that I wrote, I saw that there was a need for people needed it.
Yes.
And it's cost me more time and money than I ever have made money at the moment. But it's something that I felt I needed to. And the reason, what I heard behind you, was you didn't want people being ripped off.
No, really upsets me.
Exactly. And that's why I'd help people like you every day of the week, because you're actually doing it for the greater good as much as anything else.
Oh gosh, yeah. Like at the end of the day, like, I have to make an impact.
Yeah.
And if I'm making money from it, oh, thank goodness, like, because we all have bills. But there's like this thing inside of me that I have to do things right, and I have to do things right for other people, and I have to not save people, that's just taking it too far, but there are so many people out there that do have people take the mick out of them, and it really drives me crazy. Like, I'm not perfect, but I will go, yeah, like, someone said to me, have you done that yet? And I was like, do you know what, I'm sorry, I haven't, I'm going to do it now.
Well, I think we're very like that as well. I mean, I think that's one of the reasons we started this podcast, was to tell the story of people that really do need to have their story told, right? And because some of those, I'm not saying you, but some of those wouldn't necessarily get on other podcasts, because there's this kind of hierarchy game that goes on there. It's like, well, actually, have they got enough followers on their thing? Would they elevate my profile if I got them on my thing? And there's a lot of that kind of like, well, I'll get you on if you get on mine. Oh God, it's going to be so fun.
I just love you guys. That's why I wanted to be on.
But which is lovely. But the point is that, we wanted to have a podcast that will literally just let people talk about their thing, right, without it having to be fluff, and without it having to be sexy and bright pink and orange.
What you
today.
Guys are doing is real, and it is brilliant, and we need more of that out there. We really do. But you guys are authentic. I absolutely love you guys.
Thank you.
Well, we got on, you see.
Yeah.
And I'm going to use that as a little opportunity to plug as well, because I haven't done it for a little while. That's the other reason we started the community as well, folks, right? because there's so many communities out there, as I was saying to someone yesterday, so many communities out there that will charge you an arm and a leg to join them every month in their online community for absolutely no reason other than to buy the person that started that community a brand new car or house. And we haven't done that. We started a community where we are really trying to make it your community, not our community. It's your community. And we're trying to encourage people in there to put their own courses on in there and monetize their own courses in there. We're trying to get people to, if they help grow the community, get money back for growing the community. And we're trying to make it affordable for everybody in the first place, because that is fair. That is fair. There's too many people out there charging far too much. I even commented on somebody's post this morning who charges too much for a community, saying, or you could just join our community for a reasonable amount of money, because I don't care anymore. And you know, that's well, they can. But
you do care. You care too much, and that's why you've done it.
Oh, of course, because they can block me. Well, what I mean is, I don't care what they throw back at me.
Oh yeah.
I honestly don't, because it is wrong. It is wrong. Right? It's a bit like, do we need to send people into space? What
was that all about?
Answers on a postcard. 12 minutes in space for X billion pounds. That's more.
Thank you for coming on, Emma.
Yes,
I loved it. Thank you guys for having me.
Come on again when you've done the thing that you're going to do.
I've got a lot of things.
just like
always
to say,
on the go.
We can't tell you anything about Emma's new project, but it doesn't involve latex suits and going into space. That's
the other thing.
That's the only thing. That's the only thing we're not telling you. Right? Okay. We will be back next week with more of the same. But until then, if you've enjoyed the conversation today, please do come and join us in the community. We'll put the linkage on these as it goes out. Come and say hello to Emma on LinkedIn or wherever. Where else are you? Are you on lots of platforms?
I do LinkedIn and Facebook, and they both are exactly the same.
And there they go.
I haven't got time to be choosy.
She doesn't digress between the two. She doesn't do early morning photos of what she's eating for breakfast on Facebook or LinkedIn. So there you go. We'll be back soon with more of this. Until then,